What's good, YouTube? It's me, your boy Squiddy, back in another video. And I really want to quickly talk about a hand trap that's being overlooked in this format. I know a lot of people are not playing hand traps recently, especially in the tier elements, just because there's not a lot of space, and like most of the hand traps are -1. So it's kind of like super low impact for the deck, what the deck wants to do. You don't really want to trade 1-for-1 with your opponent. You really just want to combo off and like get your plays going, because the minute you do that, you kind of snowball, with all your mills, milling names, milling Ishizu cards. Obviously, it's just a lot better than 1-for-1 trading with your opponent. But I really wanted to highlight one of the hand traps that people are looking past, which is Infinite Impermanence. So this card actually has a lot of legs in the mirror match, I feel like, especially because people are playing 1 Kit Kalos. Like right now, I don't think anyone's playing 2 Kit Kalos. It might change after Photon Hypernova because of the fact that the Cashier deck becomes relevant. So when people start maxing, on Cashier Unicorn, which banishes any card from your opponent's extra deck when your opponent activates a monster effect or when it attacks, people might just bump Kikalos up to 2 just because like them summoning a unicorn on turn 1 basically means that you cannot play. If you just play 1 Kikalos, it's going to get banished no matter what. So, but until then, I think Infinite Impermanence is really good. I don't know if you guys have played tier elements against like a deck like Sprite where they are playing hand traps and they happen to imperm on your Kit Kalos. It actually hurts a lot more than you think. Because of the fact that you only play 1, that essentially guarantees that you're basically not milling 5 that turn, which is pretty huge, given that this is like the 1-card starter, essentially, to all of the tier element plays, on top of the fact that it negates the search. So they're not going to be able to add a card or send a card, and they're not going to be able to mill 5. So effectively, when your opponent, for example, goes, normal summon a Rhino Heart, dump a tier name, make Kit Kalos, and you imperm, that's actually pretty high impact. And I see a lot of people playing Ghost Reaper, and I like Ghost Reaper, but the thing that I realized about this card in the mirror match is the fact that everyone's playing Bystials now. Okay, it's not like the OCG where the existence of Maxi kind of makes it so the Bystials are not as good because Maxi just essentially invalidates, the turn anyways. So like they have to pass turn or like make a subpar board, maybe let the opponent draw 2, make like a Kick Hollow, set a Suliak. So the Bystials are not as high impact as in TCG where there's no Max C. It's just like a lot of Bystials running around. It's essentially the only way to stop your opponent, and they're really, really high impact in the mirror match given that they give you a body as well. So what happens when people play like, 6 or 9 Bystials even, some decks even more, the Ghost Reaper gets a lot less value because of the fact that obviously you're losing 1 card. It's inherent -1 because your opponent doesn't lose any advantage. You're discarding this card for free, essentially, to get rid of a card in your opponent's extra deck, which is not really card advantage, right? So you're down a card. Let's say your opponent doesn't have Kit Kalos, so they're going to go like normal summon Rhino Heart, effective Havenness in the graveyard, do chain Ghost Reaper, and then they, from there, resolve the Havenness, just summon something like a, for example, a Garuda. And then maybe they have like 2 Bystials. Maybe they have even 1 Magnamut. Okay, they go Magnamut, summon, make Beatrice, send another name, maybe set up like a something else like a Dragostapelia, for example, using the Garuda and the name that they foolish off of the Beatrice. And they have the Magnamut search in the end phase. So now you have to deal with essentially a Beatrice, a Druisworm in their hand, on top of like a Dragostapelia and Negate, plus any other cards that they may have, like on top of the field spell, Shufflers and Graves, so on and so forth. It's a lot harder to deal with that with 5 cards, given like you already discarded the Ghost Reaper, so you draw for turn, you're at 5 cards in hand, and a lot of times it's just not enough for you to win. Even though their Kit Kalos is gone, you're just not going to be able to play because of the fact that they still have interruptions on the board. So I almost feel like this card might be a little better. I know it's still inherently a -1, but it makes it so your opponent can't use your Kit Kalos, number 1, first and foremost. And then the other thing is it has a lot of crossover in the other matchups. So like tier elements obviously are the best deck by margin, but that doesn't mean everyone's going to be playing this deck. There are a lot of people that are still playing Flunderies, obviously, with the existence of Barrier Statue and D-Shifter. Some people are playing Naturias, like road decks. I'm not sure I would necessarily side this in against Sprites just because it's not very good. Like all of their Sprite monsters are, it's like a hard -1, like you use it on a Jet or something. They're still going to be able to summon a blue if they have it, and it's like basically the same thing. You're not really stopping anything. So I don't like it as much in the Sprite matchup, but I think against Flunder, it's super, super good. Obviously, you can use this against a Rubino, which I think is correct because of the fact that they might be siding into the wind Featherstorm, so being able to stop the Rubino, which is a water, might just mean that they pass their turn, and then any Featherstorms that they have in their hand are essentially dead because they don't have a Winged Beast monster. So I think it has some crossover there. In the mirror match, I still think it's decent against Kit Kalos. Obviously, it does kind of conflict when you have Bystials in your hand because of the fact that you can't use one or the other. Like, In that case, I think it's probably better just to let them resolve the name and engrave, activate the imperm on the Kick Hallows, and then use the Bestial for whatever follow-up they have. I think it's a lot better. Because again, if you think about it, if you're comparing this card to Ghost Reaper, you're obviously using Ghost Reaper in response, ideally, to one of their names graveyard. Maybe you don't, but like ideally, it's better to do that because you use it at the latest possible moment. So your opponent obviously has already committed to a play, so they can't really like play around Ghost Reaper having that knowledge prior. If you used it, for example, previously, if they normal summon something, like if you used it in response to Rhinoheart, it's probably better to wait till they dump and then use it in response. They're still going to be able to fuse into Garuda, obviously. For the most part, like 9 times out of 10, they'll be able to do that because if they had access to Kick Hallows, unless they only had Rhinoheart as the other name, which obviously you can't make Garuda with a water monster and a dark monster, it has to be 2 darks. Unless that's like their literally only play, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be able to make Garuda. So they're still getting a monster on board, right? I would rather have them commit to Kick Hallows because they don't get a draw. If they summon, like you're using this, they summon the Garuda, they have Garuda and Rhinoheart, so they're going to get a draw off the Garuda card. There's still some intrinsic value in that, and you lost a card. Whereas Imperm, you lose a card on the Kick Hallows, but the Kick Hallows is invalidated basically for that turn. They're not going to be able to mill 5, and on top of that, they have, they're not going to be able to get a draw. And even better is the fact that Imperm's a better 6 card to draw. Obviously, drawing Ghost Reaper does basically nothing as a 6 card because they've already done their full combo. They have Kick Hallows. They've already milled 8. They have potential Abyss Dweller even. Like I know Cherry can also hit Abyss Dweller, but it's obviously a lot better to hit the Reaper or hit the Kick Hallows unless you're in some niche board state where you can just use it on the Dweller when they already have Kick Hallows. For example, if they instant fusion or if they play like Brandon High Spirits randomly because you can't Reaper when they don't have any monsters. So I think Imperm is a lot better. As a 6 card, you could draw it, potentially use it on something like an Abyss Dweller, which could be super huge. You could even use it on like a Dragostapelia, on a Rook Hallows, for example, if you've already whittled down the board state potentially. Let's say like maybe you Magnemoted previously and they got rid of your Magnemot with your field spell, so you have a blank field again, you drew Imperm. They have a weaker board because you Magnemoted one of the names, so you can go Infinite Imperm, Infinite Impermanence on the Rook Hallows, for example. It's a lot better. Yeah, obviously when they have Elf, it sucks when you can't really do it on Dweller, but still like being able to use it on an Elf means that they're not going to be able to get Merly. A lot of the boards sometimes are mediocre in that they have like an Elf plus a Dweller plus a Sulic set, and they're kind of banking on either the Elf to resolve to revive back the Merly, or like they have this in the hand to resolve to be able to be turn that Sulic online, because obviously you need a Tier Limits name in order to use it. Same thing with Crime, you need Tier Limits on the board. So Imperm stopping the Elf is quite impactful there, given that they're not able to special summon them back. Obviously you would do that in the draw phase or in the standby phase, and Sprite Elf can only special summon in the main phase, so they wouldn't be able to chain. I just think this card has a lot of more value against the Rogue decks as well. So why not side a card that's a little... I think it could potentially be better than Reaper in the mirror match as well. So why not just side a card that's potentially, all around better? The other thing about Reaper that I don't like is when you use this, you actually put a dark monster in your graveyard. So they can actually dark the cherries back and then make a Sprite Sprint off of your Reaper. So it essentially makes any 2 of their monsters, including a dark monster, into a free Sprint that allows them to Foolish and Merly and continue with their plays. So Ghost Reaper kind of sets that up for them, given that it gives you monster fodder in the graveyard for them to dark back. So again, you have to bear in mind that, if they have like 2 monsters, for example, they can always Reaper back. For example, even like in that case where I was saying, they normal summon Rhinoheart, they dump like a Havness, you Ghost Reaper, you get rid of the Kick Hallows, they make Garuda. Then from there, they can instantly just make a dark, get a sprint, dump a Merly, draw a card off of the Garuda, obviously, and then fusion with the Garuda and the Merly into a Dragostapelia. So they're looking at like a sprint plus Dragostapelia plus like whatever follow-up they have. So you kind of have to already deal with one negate with 5 cards on top of any other cards that they may amass, because you are, again, down a card, right? So it's kind of like I know a lot of OCG players are playing this, but I just think that potentially Impermanence might be a lot better in our format, given that there are a lot of Bistials running around, so the game isn't as fluid as in the OCG, where like Ghost Reaper could hurt a lot. Obviously, Max C is in the format, so not a lot of people are playing a lot of Bistials. There's less space in the deck, and they're just like a lot lower impact, given that Max C kind of counteracts, you know, you having the Bystials, because if they have Maxi, you're still kind of in a bad spot. You can't play. Whereas here, if you have like 2 Bystial names, you're already in a good spot because you have 2 bodies on board. You can play no matter what, even through Dweller. Like you're going to be able to make Zeus, you're going to be able to make Beatrice, maybe a Wallow if you happen to play that. So I think like the Bystials are a lot more higher impact than the TCG, and I think a lot of people are recognizing that, so they're playing up to 9 copies even. And that's where I feel like Imperm is a lot better on the kit catalogs, especially because people are only playing 1. So again, they're not going to be able to mill 5 cards. And on top of that, again, the rogue matchups, guys. There's so many other matchups, like the Naturia, it's good on Camellia. It could just shut down their entire combo, potentially, on a normal summon Camellia. It's good against Flunderies. Not really good against Sprite, but these are just decks that I'm thinking of, and I find that Imperm is quite good against that. And again, them not being able to triple Tactics Talent, which is huge, because that's another card in the metagame, because this is not a monster effect. They cannot Called by the Grave, because this is not a monster effect, again. So that's another benefit. Like, they can't use those 2 power cards against this to negate something, whereas they could definitely do that, potentially, against something like a Effect Failure, right? So I just think like this has a lot of value. Obviously, if you play Reaper as well, they can also triple Tactics Talent, whether to potentially steal one of your Bystials later on, to look at your hand, to, you know, like rip a card out of your hand so they know what to stop, so they know what to negate. That could be really, really bad. They could even draw 2 more cards, draw into Bystials. That could be really bad as well. So that's where I think like this card has also added benefits. And again, there's just a lot of utility. Against certain trap decks, you might want to side this in as well, just to be able to negate like a Floodgate. You know, you can always set this in a column, negate something like a D-Fissure, like a Macrocosmos potentially even. So there are a lot of like good value against this. And again, in the mirror match, they don't really expect it, so a lot of times they're not going to play around it. Maybe you set this in the mirror match and they're not going to pop it with the Pearl Rhino because they're scared that it is a Soliac, which could allow you to add a Havness, for example, and then you could just nail them with the Imperm. It's also very good against the Charmers. It's good against Dark. Dark being obviously the powerhouse in the mirror match, being able to revive Magnemite is a big pain in the butt sometimes, so being able to stop that could be crucial as well. You can stop Abyss Dweller, again, that's a huge thing as well. Like in the mirror match, a lot of the times, like these high impact cards are monster effects, so things like Dark, Dweller, you know, having like a monster effect bottleneck resolve could put you in a terrible spot. So like I feel like this could be something that you guys should definitely test. Let me know your thoughts. This is just something I was thinking of. I haven't really tried it yet per se, but I think it could be really, really good. So guys, let me know what you think. Leave a comment below and definitely subscribe, rate, and comment if you haven't already. I'm going to try and push out some more videos in the next few days. I'll see you guys in the next one.